I'm a little irritated today, Tommy. That's Tommy Cairns. I'm the coach, Coach Ron Tuning. Go to CoachTunick.com or listen live on our website, JobTalk1.com, or you can listen on HometownsStation.com. Got an incredible hour ahead. In fact, if you're driving your car, you might want to pull over to the side of the road because our first guest is so inspirational. Every time I talk to him, he inspires me. He really does. And I hope you get the same feeling today. Our show is brought to you. We've got so many advertisers. Our show is heard all over the country. Bonefish Grill locally in Southern California. Pools by Ben. I've talked to them. Lisa's Tax. Look, if you have a pool and you've got a little animal in your pool like I did the other day, call Pools by Ben. Lisa's Tax Service. She's been with us a long, long time. To me, the best realtor, and I know her personally because she sells everything. I mean, I swear to God, if you list your house with Cindy Lazinski, she will sell your property. She's amazing. She's smart. And, of course, our new advertiser is Southern California Phone Company, and they do surveillance. They do phone systems. They put cameras into my house.
Wow.
Now I got
in your house? In your home?
I got cameras.
Okay.
And they're like
so your wife can watch where you're going, what you're doing.
And, well, we've had some issues in the neighborhood. Some of our neighbors got their cars egged. Anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in Southern California to a show called Job Talk 1. My first guest, it's an honor to have him on. He's from Yuma, Arizona, which is the number one. I didn't know this till yesterday. It's the number one lettuce growing region in the United States.
Amazing.
But he doesn't grow lettuce, ladies and gentlemen. What Mark Croft does, that's CROF, what he does is he's a PGA pro. In fact, a Golf Magazine and many golf magazines says he's one of the best golf teachers in the United States of America. He's also the director of, I know I'm going to mispronounce that. I wrote it down. Las Barrancas. He's the director of golf.
And you know what? It's appropriate also because as we talked about fun jobs, he must have a fun job.
He loves his life, and we're going to talk to him in just about 30 seconds. I just want to make a dramatic introduction because his life story is dramatic, and what happened to him the last couple of years is unbelievable. Am I saying it right? Amazing. Like Donald Trump. Amazing. But, you know, some of you out there may have just lost your job. Some of you have been disappointed in life. Some of you are frustrated in life. Some of you out there just haven't had it going your way, and I get it. But, you know, this guy has probably had something happen to him that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, not on my worst enemy. And he not only rebounded, but he looks at what happened to him, Tommy Cairns, as his new normal, that he's just moving on. Mm-hmm. And as director of golf of where?
Las Barrancas.
18 holes, 9 holes, and a par 3, and he loves working with the younger people. So welcome to Southern California, Mark Croft. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Well, thanks, Coach. Very good. Thank you very much. And thanks, Tom. Great to be with you guys today, and have an opportunity to talk with you about, how you get ahead in life.
Yeah, well, you're going to share your story in a minute, but it's 1:15 in Yuma, Arizona, so I'm going to quit my whining about our 108, 109 here, so I don't like it that hot. So share with us your story. You're a PGA pro, you're making a living, life is going great. What happened?
Well, I somehow contracted an infection in my lower right leg, and over a period of time, it got progressively worse. I was under a doctor's care. I was at the Yuma Wound Clinic. They were treating it 3 times a week. I was being reassured that everything was working, that there was no problems. I was seeing my local cardiologist. I was in his office, and I had a heart attack. And the reason that I had a heart attack was from gangrene in my right leg that had caused a septic infection in my body. And my body just, not just my heart, but my kidneys, my liver, just everything just quit. They said, God, we can't do this anymore. We're not pumping blood, we're pumping poison. And so I ended up in the hospital, and the infection was so bad in my lower leg that the guy that said everything was okay came in and told me we were going to have to amputate your leg.
I can't even imagine. We're talking to PGA pro Mark Croft in Yuma, Arizona today on the show we call Job Talk 1. Tommy Cairns and the coach here on KHTS, one of the great radio stations in the country. And the show brought to you by Bonefish Grill Pools by Ben Lisa's Tax Service and Cindy Lazinski, one of the best realtors in Southern California. So he tells you this. What is your reaction?
Well, there was so much pain in my leg at that time that I said, "Go ahead." Wow. You know, I just said, "Go ahead," and they did. They told me that you're going to leave this hospital either dead or alive. If you leave it with this leg on, you'll be dead. If you don't take it off, you'll be fine. There, like I said, there was so much pain in the leg that it sounds terrible when I say this, but I was happy to get rid of it.
Well, I mean, losing a leg or losing your life are two different things. Also, a cheap plug at a little after 2:30, we're going to go live on Facebook, Mark, so you can see what Coach and Tommy look like. We've never done this. We're pioneering because we're going to be talking about, and I don't want to get into it, we're going to be talking about Colin Kaepernick and what happened. But now we're talking to Mark Croft, a gentleman, PGA golfer, needs both legs, but apparently the way that you've recovered from this and the way that you've handled this is unbelievable in my mind. How did you pick yourself up, losing your leg? How did you do this?
Number one, my wife. Golf professionals have some of the highest divorce rates in the United States. I am so fortunate to be married to the strongest, most optimistic woman in the world. And it was, I would look at her and she would look at me and she'd say, "Don't worry, everything's going to be all right. Don't worry about it." And I would have the strength and courage then to look back at her and, say, "You know something? Everything's going to be okay. We're going to discover a new normal here. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but it's going to be okay." And I immediately started asking the doctors, "What do we do now?" Well, you need therapy, you need this. And my first response was, "When do I get the prosthetic? When do I get the new leg? I want to get up. I want to get going. I want to, I've got things to do. I've got my own radio show. I've got my own golf school. I have things to do. We need to get moving here." And my wife was just there. She was just a rock. I mean, the first 2 months out of the hospital before I got the prosthetic were not easy. She had to take me everywhere. But we did it. I mean, I got out of the hospital on, I believe, the 17th of March on a Wednesday, and my first golf lesson was that Saturday morning.
Wow. And we're talking to Mark Croft, ladies and gentlemen, PGA pro who had his leg amputated, got gangrene, on our show on Job Talk 1 here in Southern California. Tommy Cairns and the coach. So now, do you have your prosthetic leg right now?
Yes, and I'm learning how to use it. That in itself is a whole new thing. But things are going fine. We're progressing fine. And, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well, it's unbelievable. I mean, you got a lot of humility. I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of challenges. So this may sound odd to say on my show called Job Talk 1 with Tommy Cairns. I believe in angels. I really do. So do you think your wife is an angel? Do you think that she was assigned to really provide for you the strength that you couldn't provide for yourself at the time?
That nobody's ever asked me that question before. You might make me cry here, Coach.
It's right.
Yeah.
It's okay. It takes a big man to cry, brother. Trust me, it takes a big man to cry.
I mean, she's bigger than an angel. I mean, she's... I always knew my wife is a very strong woman.
She listening to the show now?
No, she's just on her way home from work. Oh. She'll be here in just a few minutes.
Well, she can tune in to Hometown Station or go to Job Talk 1. She can listen on Job Talk 1, listen live. So tell our listeners, how do you bounce back? What is it in your DNA? What is it in your makeup that you have this horrible thing happen to you? You know, people lose their job. People get divorced. I've got a friend of mine who's struggling with his girlfriend right now. I mean, all kinds of stuff happens. You got to be able to bounce back. You know, life today is like going to fight the Russian Navy on a raft. And Mark Croft, I want you on my raft because I know you're not going to be throwing up and jumping off and, you know, the first big wave that hits the raft. I know I can count on you. But how did you learn how to count on yourself? That's what I want to hear. Where did this come from, this strength?
Well, I think it came from family. And really, if you want to believe it or not, it came from athletics. It came from sports. It came from... I was a very good athlete as a young man. I was a very good golfer. You know, you're constantly challenged in a athletic environment to perform, to be better at what you do, to improve every day, to get stronger at what you do.
But you have to deal with failure. I mean, you have to deal.
Well, failure is part of the equation. I mean,
no, it's a big part. Hold on, I got a challenge. You're talking to Mark Croft, C-R-O-F-T. You can look him up on Facebook. You ought to be friends with him too. Mark Croft, PGA pro, lost his leg, and he inspires the coach. Every time I talk to him, I hope his story will inspire you. Our show brought to you by Southern Cal Phone Company. They put my cameras in. They do surveillance. They do phone systems, and it's a young guy growing up in Santa Cruz, does a great job. Southern California Phone. If you need surveillance stuff, I think everybody needs to have cameras. So let me challenge you here, because let's talk about golf for a second. So I'm a golfer. I got down to a 5 handicap. I won my club championship, a lot of city tournaments. Thought I was going to be a pro someday. But, you know, I realized that I could not manage my nervous system. I realized that there's probably 300,000 guys that can shoot even par in the country, but only a very few PGA pro Mark Croft can manage what's between their ears. So that's why I say somebody like yourself who had this tragedy is somehow managing the circumstances. You know, in golf, you get into sand traps, you hit it in the water, you hit it out of bounds. If you're going to stand there and cry like a little baby, you ain't going nowhere. And people in life that cry like a little baby, something happens to them, and they can't get out of bed in the morning. They have self-pity parties. Apparently, when you lost your leg, you didn't have a pity party. You got right back, bounced back up, and said, "Let's get back to work."
Well, I mean, really and truly, that's all you can do. I mean, you can't sit there and say, "What if?" Okay, and in golf, whether it be golf, whether it be baseball, whether it be whatever it is, whether it be your job, you're going to fail. I mean, there's going to be failures. There are. Failures are simply learning experiences. That's all they are. They're nothing else. That's all they are. We are challenged every day, or we should be challenged every day in our life. And we're not going to do it perfect every time. We can't. We're human beings. It's impossible. It is impossible. But failure is a huge part of the learning curve. And I think today that how our kids are being taught and failure is being taken away from our children. With compromise and with acceptance, and I don't think that's healthy. I don't. And if you know, I teach junior kids all the time. I've got girls that come off the golf course. They're 9, 10 years old. They had a terrible day, and they're almost in tears. And I'm like, hey, that's all right. You know, think about what you did good. Think about what you need to improve on. And we just keep moving on. There's no such thing as failure. That's a learning experience. That's all it is. It's nothing else. And I don't care how dramatic it is. It's just a learning experience.
What you experienced, Mark, this is Tom, that many could relate to in a lot of ways, is that your career, as you knew it, based on the experience that you had, ended. But yet there was a new aspect before you. And so sometimes we look at the things we do, we don't realize there's really still a whole lot more. And it seems like you really discovered that. So what aspect of that did you learn that you didn't know before about yourself?
Well, whatever's in your heart and whatever's in your mind is what you're made of. I mean, that's who you are. I mean, I've met some people through this that have no legs, that are paraplegics, that have no arms, and they're amazing people. They're just amazing people. I met a young man 3 weeks ago who has cerebral palsy, and he's a golfer. He walks 18 holes once, sometimes twice a day. You know, it's what's in your heart, it's what's in your mind, it's what's in your spirit, and that truly is the makeup of a human being, whether it be positive or negative. But you can't sit around and think about what if. I've got a really good friend who's an above-the-knee amputee like myself, and he's kind of a rough guy. He grew up here in Yuma, and kind of a cowboy, kind of farm guy, kind of rural guy, and his whole thing is, well, what the hell you expect going to happen, son? You a lizard? You think it's going to grow back? You know, and you know, that attitude is so true. You know, it's not going to grow back. It's not. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be yesterday ever again.
So somehow, like you talk to me all the time, somehow you've adopted this phrase, which I like, the new normal. Let's get on with it. Talking to Mark Croft, one of America's top PGA pros, according to Golf Magazine, a bunch of other magazines, based in Yuma, Arizona, also the director of golf of how do you say it?
Las Barrancas.
Las Barrancas. I'll learn how to say it. So we have a couple of minutes left. There are people out there. There's got to be one person here in Southern California, amongst our million listeners, that you can help. What would you say to somebody that just lost their job, just got disappointed, just got fired, just don't think they're good enough? What would you say to them?
I would say look inside yourself. You know, call me. You know, email me, text me. You want to talk to me? I'll talk to you. You know, think about who you are and what you are. People don't determine who you are. You determine who you are. If someone doesn't, it's like dating, okay? You got the hottest chick in the world, and she finally says, yeah, I'll go to a movie with you. And you go to the movie, and she goes like, okay, that was enough. All right? So you got rejected. So what? So what? I mean, get moving. There's a million other opportunities out there. They're everywhere. There are stacks of money sitting every place. If people would just get up and go pick up the money. And I'm not talking about welfare or anything else. But there are employees everywhere that are looking for people that will make innovation, changes, and ideas in their business through a multiple of different avenues. And people, you know, you can't give up. You got fired. So what? Somebody didn't like you. Big deal. You know, if you were the boss, you fired somebody, all right? How do you think that somebody feels?
Well, you're special. We're going to go to commercial break. I'm going to have you back many times. You're very special. I wrote down what you said, which pretty darn interesting. You determine who you are, ladies and gentlemen. This gentleman,
Absolutely.
Mark Croft, PGA Pro, Director of Golf at Las Broncos. Did I say that right?
I think so.
In Yuma, Arizona. So you're on your way to Yuma, Arizona. Look him up, and you'll be back on the show we call Job Talk 1. Mark, what an honor to hear, and you got a great little radio voice. What's the name of your radio show?
Desert Southwest Golf Show, KBLU 560 AM. You can stream it live.
Desert, say it again.
Desert Southwest Golf Show.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate it. You'll be back. Mark Croft, everybody. Thank you. What a blessing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to be live on Facebook. Live on Facebook. We're pioneering here on KHTS Radio, and we're going to be talking about several subjects. We're going to be talking about the Kaepernick thing, Colin Kaepernick. We're going to be talking about Google owes $14 billion to the British Empire. And we'll talk about, did I say Google?
Google.
It's Apple. I'm sorry. I said Apple. Excuse me, Google. It's Apple.
Google just.
Excuse me, Google. It's Apple. We're going to come right back. It's an interesting conversation,
right?
Because they went over. Anyway, when we come back, I'll tell you why they went over to Ireland, and I'll tell you what Apple did. Anyway, we'll be right back on the show we call JobTalk1.com. We'll be right back.